today's class. Today we will be looking at interface and interaction. So user interface is basically a point where two systems meet. So it can be described as a point of communication between the user and the machine. So in our case, it will be the computer. And this is the part of the computer that the user can see and they can hear, touch, and talk to it, whether directly or indirectly. So the types of user interfaces are here on the screen. We can see that these are the basic types of user interfaces: graphical user interface, command line interface, menu driven interface, touch based, voice based, form based, and natural language interface. So now we'll take a look at each one of these briefly. So the graphical user interface is quite a popular interface that we see all around us in our phones, on our screens. So graphical user interfaces are the ones which we see around us, which, for example, in our phones, tablets, on our computer monitors, in terms of websites or applications. And here the graphical elements that are there we can see in front of us are like windows and pull down menus, buttons, scroll bars, and icons. And the advantages of using the graphical user interfaces is that they are intuitive interactions. So because the folder, for example, resembles an actual folder, so it's intuitive. So as we may put or organize different papers in different folders physically, say for example, phone bill, car bill, house bill, for example, in the same way we can, on the computer screen also, we can have different folders and we can put our documents in those folders and we can actually see those files moving into those folders. They're very intuitive, they're very easy to understand by the user. And the visual cues, so wherein we have icons and buttons and different elements, so they provide a clear and visual cue. So this enhances the usability and also reduces the learning curve which the user may have to use. So they, based on the visual cue they are seeing, it becomes more intuitive and easy to operate. Also, these are accessible, so the issue of accessibility is taken care of, so they are easy to use. And now here, somebody may not have a technical background in this, as maybe somebody who's working on the command line interface does. So without that kind of knowledge also, one can easily operate these kind of systems. And also adaptive features, so many of these interfaces come with adaptable features that one can modify and personalize according to their requirements in terms of color and size and many other aspects. The enhanced interaction, like I mentioned, the pick and drop facility, so that one is able to see it drag across the screen, and the real time feedback. So it gives the instant feedback that the work is done, whatever we chose to perform, the activity we chose to perform. And they also allow us to multitask, so we can have several windows open, we can have several files open, we can move between those files, and there is no requirement of getting one thing done and then starting with the other, but it allows us to do several things at the same time, like check our mail, edit a Word document, make a PowerPoint, for example. So all of those things can be done simultaneously. And also the visual representation, so wherein the data visualization can be presented in graphical formats like charts, bar graphs. We can compare information, we can visually assess the information presented to us. And also rich media support, so they can handle various types of media like images, video, audio, and these all together enhance the user experience. Now, at the same time, there are certain downsides also, or certain cons to the graphical user interface. So one being that the system requirements are pretty high, the memory and the performance required to carry out these tasks, that is high. So system configuration becomes very important. Then also, because of we are dealing with maybe videos or high quality images, so the load time can also increase here, and less precision. So for example, some errors can happen. So for example, when we are trying to click something, we may by mistake click on something and delete a file. So some of these errors are possible, and there can be certain accessibility issues as well. So because these GUIs may not always be fully compatible with assistive technologies, so accessibility issues like compatibility concerns, so these GUIs may not be fully compatible with assistive technologies or may require additional configuration to meet accessibility standards. And also the touchscreen limitations can be found here because GUIs are designed for mouse and keyboard input. So these may not always be optimized for touchscreens or other input methods. So these are some of the downsides of it. Now, command line interfaces. So this is a software mechanism that we use to interact with our operating system using our keyboard, and they accept text input to execute a certain function, and they were used highly in the 1970s and 80s. They were very much used at that time because of certain advantages that they have. So they are efficient and they are speed oriented. So these are direct commands, so they can be quickly given as an input, and the user does not need to navigate through the graphical elements. So they are very clear and fast input mechanism, and they also allow multiple commands in the scripts in automating repetitive tasks and saving time. So that is another advantage of this. Now they're also very flexible and powerful in terms of advanced functionality. So they provide access to a wide range of features and options that may not be available through graphic interfaces. And also the customizations. So users can write complex scripts to customize and extend the functionality of the system. So these are some advantages of these. At the same time, the command line interfaces also do not need a lot of high configuration systems. So they don't need a lot of processing power. So they can work with some medium level systems as well. That is another advantage of the command line interface. At the same time, the user can control the system behavior and configuration, so which can be useful for advanced tasks or when we are troubleshooting the system. So these were some of the advantages, but they also have certain disadvantages, like the learning curve that we saw in the graphical user interface was very easy. It was very small. Here it is a large curve because one needs certain expertise in order to be good at providing these command line, this kind of input that it requires. So they are difficult to learn for beginners because here we have to memorize the commands, the syntax, the options, and we saw in our previous lecture that how the cognitive load is increased when a lot of functions are to be performed by the human. Now, when the syntax needs to be remembered, when the commands need to be remembered, so we can imagine the kind of memory that will be involved when the user is interacting with the system. So as compared to the graphical user system, wherein the user was looking at the graphical, maybe the icon or the button, and intuitively understanding that what it stands for. So here it is in terms of a language or the command, and that needs to be remembered by the user. So this also makes it more error prone because there will be more syntax error. So if the input is not given in a certain format, in a certain hierarchy, then there will be a certain syntax error that can be there, and sometimes these errors are irreversible. So they cannot be, there's no undo here in these command line interfaces. And lack of visual feedback, of course, because they don't provide any visual representation of data. So now this can make the visualization and understanding of the data and the analysis of it a little bit more complex as compared to GUI, where we could see with the help of graphs and bar charts and other certain functions. And the accessibility issues are also negative here. or we can say that they do not allow accessibility, because there is no touch or gesture support which is possible here, because they are not designed for those kinds of interactions. So these are some of the downsides. So although they are faster and they can get work done quickly, but the feedback is not as visual, they are more error prone, no undo. So all those things make this command line interface a little bit more challenging, especially for the new learner, for a beginner. Now, coming to the menu driven interface, so they are useful where the user is not experienced, where the user is not trained, or the user is not tech savvy, because the menu is provided to the user, and the roadmap, sort of, we can say, is presented to the user, which makes it easy for them to pick out the next course of action. Now, the software or the system that is presented to the user has a wide range of functionalities that need to be organized is in a hierarchical way for easy navigation. And the application is complex, so we need to ensure that we are guiding the user step by step in this process. And the users need a visual structure to understand the system, and also it's important to limit the number of errors that one can do. So if one presses a certain button, that what all options will open up, how the user can go back, select another option and go forward from there. And there are certain quick access is needed to certain features or settings, so the menus are able to efficiently provide shortcuts to those. So some of the other advantages of these menu driven interfaces are that, again, their intuitive navigation. So generally we will see here that certain functions are grouped together, so it is easy to find and navigate through those easily by the user who may not be very well versed with the system, who may not be very tech savvy. And there are reduced errors, because here we can control the number of options that are given to the user. Sometimes we see that some of the options are also ghosted, so they are gray, and the user will not be able to choose those ghosted options because of the previous choice they have made. So that choice will only allow them to move in one direction and not go in the other direction. So this is how the error can also be decreased. Now they are accessible as well, because in cases of people with certain disabilities, they don't have to remember a lot of these functions, but they are intuitively understood because they are presented in front of them. And they are flexible because they allow the user to use various input methods like mouse, keyboard, touchscreen to put in the input, so they are flexible that way. And they're also user friendly, so because it's visual, there are more options are provided, and one does not need a lot of training or background in this, so it makes it very user friendly as well. So now the next interface, which is the touch interface. So here we are basically using gadgets like our phones, or the even the ATMs where we go nowadays. We have the touch screens on the ATMs for our banking, withdrawal, and other requirements. So some advantages of the touch interfaces are that they are intuitive, because there is a direct manipulation wherein we can directly see what is on the screen, and then we can interact with it for the next step that we want to take. And they also support natural gestures like pinching, tapping, swiping. So in the ATM, for example, we can select, we have the choice sometimes in several ATMs to either use a touch screen and also to use the buttons on the right hand panel to OK or to select, or then another keyboard is there where we are entering the amount we want to withdraw. So this is a good example of a combination of these types of interfaces, the ATM. Also, we have the improved accessibility in terms of customizable text. So now in these interfaces, we can also make the text larger, smaller, or increase the contrast for better readability. So this is also allowed in these interfaces. So for example, when we are working with our tablet, for example, and we're reading some text, we can, with two fingers, we can zoom in and enlarge the text, and many other functions are present there for better accessibility. There are also voice and gesture integration in some of these interfaces, so which also further enhance the accessibility. Like again, going back to the ATM example, the we also have a voice activation. So in fact, which starts the minute we enter into the ATM. So the voice tells us to close the door, and then it tells us to put in our card or take out our card in case we forget to take it. So this also adds to another layer to the advantage that this interface is offering us, and it makes it more accessible, more intuitive, and less error prone. Also, we will see that there are more streamlined designs. So we'll see that there are clean aesthetics and there are flexible layouts in these systems. Now, some of the negative aspects of the touch user interfaces are that accuracy and precision. So sometimes, depending on different human anthropometrics, somebody having slender fingers, somebody having chubbier fingers, so we may press the incorrect button which we are not intending to press. So we may press OK when we wanted to cancel, for example. Also, there is lack of precision when it comes to fine control tasks, where we have a mouse or a stylus. Again, depending on the physical attributes of the person, the precision and accuracy can be a challenge. The other similar problem is the finger fatigue and smudges. Now, after constant use and depending on the type of gestures we are making on this interface, and especially if it is a larger interface, then the finger or the arm or the hand can feel fatigue, it can feel exhausted and tired, and also repeated use can use some smudges, they can leave smudges on the screen, and over time these smudges can also become like permanent on the screen as well, and the sensitivity of the screen can become lesser over time. Now, limited feedback, so lack of tactile response. So unlike the buttons that we have in our interfaces, touchscreens do not provide tactile feedback, so which can make it harder to know if action has been registered. So many a times when we are especially using applications like online banking, for example, and we are pressing a button to submit a request, and we are unsure because we don't see the page changing. It could be due to several factors, but we are unsure that whether we press the button, and we press it again and then there is an error and it logs us out. So that can cause a lot of frustration because it is not giving us any feedback whether the first time around when we press the button, did it actually press it or not. So that can be a hindrance. And also the environmental challenges can be there. So when we are in the outside situation, in the outdoors, so there, because of the sunlight, the contrast can be hindered, we may not be able to read it very properly, there can be glare and the visibility and usability will be directly impacted. Also, depending on the environmental conditions, if we use the particular interface with wet hands or oily hands, so again the touch sensitivity will be hindered and we will not get our work done, and the regular cleaning of the device is also becomes important. And the durability and cost, so over time, repeated use of the screen, so the screen's sensitivity can be lost, and also there are higher costs involved because these can be more expensive due to the added complexity and technology that is involved in the touch user interfaces. Now, voice user interfaces allow us to verbally interact with a device. So, now there are some advantages of this as well. So, which is hands free interaction. So, it gives us the convenience of using it hands free. We don't have to put in any input through our hands, but we will verbally give some instruction and we will get a feedback or the output in return. And this makes it very accessible to certain users like elderly, for example, or even people with certain disabilities who are unable to type or use the mouse or any other standard input method. So here the voice interface becomes very useful. Now, these are also natural communication ways, so intuitive use. So, because it is governed by our voice, so we are speaking like we would normally do. So, here there is no certain command as such that needs to be given, as we saw in the command line interface, that there has to be certain syntax, certain way in which the input has to be given. So, here there is no such specific need, so it makes it intuitive. And the advanced interfaces can understand the context even better and also the nuances of the language, so they allow for better conversations. At the same time, multitasking, that we have seen that how we all are nowadays prone to multitasking because there are too many things to be done in too little time. So this interface also allows us to multitask. So while we are browsing or checking something on another system, we can quickly give a voice command to this interface and get a feedback quickly. So we can do several things at the same time. Now, these are also integrated with smart devices. So for our home automation, for checking if the door is locked, if we left some device on, things like that. So for these also, these, when they're integrated with the home automation, they can be very useful. And language flexibility, so they offer multilingual language support. So many different languages and accents are integrated now, so that one can understand the system's response also. And people with different linguistic backgrounds can also have a better communication or a better exchange with these interfaces. Now, there are certain negative aspects as well. So, one is the accuracy and recognition issues. So, since we are giving a voice command and depending on the kind of input we are giving, so there can be certain miscommunication. The interface may not be able to understand the user's requirement, so there can be a gap in the understanding, and then an incorrect information may be given because the speech was not recognized by the system efficiently. There can also be contextual misunderstanding. So the command which was given was very, for example, ambiguous, and the device is not able to understand what is exactly asked or needed out of it. So that can also cause some kind of misunderstanding. Then there are certain privacy concerns as well, because this voice interface is constantly listening to the user, recording this voice, and then identifying the answer from its database and supplying that answer. So there is some concern amongst the users that the conversation that they're having with this device can be used, which will not be a very pleasant thing. And also the risk of eavesdropping, because we are verbally talking with the device, so we are speaking out. So in an environment, somebody else may eavesdrop in on our conversation, and that again will not be a very pleasant situation. So the next negative aspect is the noise sensitivity. So the background noise interference. So in a situation where there is a lot of other background noise also involved, then here the interface may have difficulty in picking up the exact command that is asked out of it. So that can lead to certain ambiguity and confusion, and the effectiveness may be reduced. The other is the limited feedback and interaction. So this type of interface, since it is voice based, so there is no visual representation. So that is another disadvantage which can be in certain cases. Then learning curve and adaptation. So the although it is quite an easy interface to interact with, but in certain cases there may be certain learning curve that is required by the user. So since we have so many different devices by different companies, and in order for them to respond to us, they need to be addressed in a certain manner. So a little bit of training, a little bit of this knowledge, prior knowledge is required by the user, so that the device pays attention and is able to respond to the user's question. And there can also be certain cultural and language limitations, especially when it comes to regional dialects. So in a country like ours where there are so many regional dialects as well, so there the catering to the need of each and every person, and for the interface to be able to understand and pick out these nuances of these dialects, these can be a little bit of a challenge. Now form based interfaces are generally available for data collection purposes. So these collect data from the user and they add to the database. So some advantages are that they can be used for data entry, very user friendly in that regard. Then there is not much of training or prior training that is required. Then they're easy to use. We can use data validation methods in form based interactions, and we do not need a lot of processing power or memory that we don't need. These are quite lightweight interfaces in that particular way. Now disadvantages of the form based interfaces are that the form will occupy a significant part of the screen, and sometimes limited options are available, and they are not very applicable for complex tasks. So those are some limitations of these. Now natural language interfaces are quickly gaining a lot of popularity at present, because they are intuitive, they are easy to grasp, and they respond quickly. They also understand the user. So for example, some of them like Amazon Alexa, Apple Siri, Microsoft Cortana, so all of these listen to the query of the user, and from the database, which is quite vast, they're able to answer a lot of complex queries as well. So, and nowadays also artificial technologies, artificial intelligence like machine learning and NLP, which is natural language processing, so they are also incorporated. So this makes the conversation also quite interesting, because it is able to continue a conversation. So it is like almost like talking to a person, for example. So it also has certain other alternate applications that we will see later on. But the broad advantages of using a natural language interface, they are that we don't need to learn or have any prior training to use this particular interface. So again, it's very intuitive. We ask and it responds. So they are more flexible in executing the task that is at hand. They can be used by people with certain disabilities as well, especially motor functions if they are compromised, or eyesight, or many other disabilities, or even healthy individuals can also use this for multitasking, for example. Now, these can be used in systems where there is no traditional input output method that is involved, and ability to build up to follow up questions and improve user friendliness. So that is where the AI comes to play a role, so that the interface remembers the conversation, and the conversation builds up on the prior conversation that they have had. And these are of course faster than the menu driven interfaces. So certain disadvantages of these natural language user interface is that they often need to be connected to an online server in order to be functional, because they are connected with the world wide web. So that is where they retrieve the information from. So of course this limits their use to areas which receive this internet connection, and in certain parts of the country, for example remote areas of the country where it's not available, so there they will not find a lot of advantage or usage. Now, sometimes the user may ask questions which are beyond the capability of the system, so which is not in their database, or something that which is predictive, which the device of course cannot predict. So in that case, the device gives a response that it is unable to give answer to this particular query. Sometimes it also can give unpredictable results, because the ambiguity, if it is there in the question that is being asked, the device may retrieve an unrelated response, and that may not be the answer which is being sought by the user. So this can be a very simple thing, like looking for a song, for example. The user wants to look for a song, but the same song is by three different artists. Then the device will not know which particular artist's song the user is looking for, unless the user specifies the song name and the artist's name as well. So then it can retrieve from its database. Now, this interface requires a lot of background work, because a lot of resource is required to develop this NLP in order to cater to a vast gamut of questions that the user may have to ask. So background homework is quite a lot, and therefore it makes it complex to program as well. Now, coming to the loop of human computer interaction, here we can see that there are broadly two environments. One is the task environment, and the other is the machine environment. So the flow of information between the human and the computer is defined as a loop of interface, and the interaction. So some of the aspects of this interaction are task environment, the machine environment, the area of interface, the input flow, output, and the feedback. So we can see here that how this particular loop is moving forward. We can see how the senses are perceiving. On the left, in the task environment, we can see in the human part, the perception, cognition, memory, intention, all of these are giving a body output which is going into the machine environment, into the computing system, and then the display. And again, this the user is perceiving this display, and the whole loop then carries forward. So, framework for understanding the interaction. Now, the interactivity or the interaction is the extent to which the user feels convinced of the mutual effect that they and the environment have on one another. So, this complex system which involves the human and the computer, and in order to understand this complex movement between the human and the computer, like the loop we saw earlier, so the interface must efficiently translate the information to the users so that they are able to take the next step efficiently. So we'll look at the 7 stages action cycle by Don Norman. So this is a psychological model that describes the steps humans take when they interact with computer systems, and it helps to evaluate the efficiency of a user interface. So there are certain principles that are required to be understood So some of these principles are affordance, feedback, visibility, and tolerance. Now, affordance is what the object, how it appears to the user, or what function it should serve. So, for example, a chair affords to be sat into, or a doorknob affords to be rotated or turned or pulled. The door handle needs to be pulled. So, affordance is which communicates to the user that what the user must do with what is in front of them. So, for example, when we have certain buttons in front of us, so they need to be pressed, or if there is a slider, so it needs to be, the finger needs to slide it. So it is the uh, what action needs to be taken. So that particular element has to communicate that how it needs to be used by the user, or what kind of function the user has to perform on it. So in a physical setting, for example, like I said, instinctively we know that if there is something which resembles a chair, we know we can sit on it. If something which was 7 feet tall, then we will not sit on it, because of course that is beyond our ability to sit on. So we will take it as maybe a wall. But if the same wall is, say, 2 feet high, so then that means that it is a wall, but we can also sit on it. So, and depending on the width, if it is 10 centimeters, if it is 15 centimeters, 30 centimeters, depending on how narrow or wide it is, it will again communicate with the user whether they can sit on it or not. So, similarly, in the digital domain, also, like I just mentioned, that different types of buttons also tell the user what the user needs to do with them, whether they should press them, whether they should slide them, whether they should pull them, or what needs to be done. So, that is an important function that becomes, the user has to be communicated so that they can take the appropriate step. Next is the feedback. So, this is the situation when the output from an event or phenomena in the past will influence an occurrence of the same event or phenomena in the present or future. So, of course, we are looking at the feedback that we are getting, and we can predict that this is what happened when the last time we interacted. So, this is what ought to happen in our upcoming interaction as well. So, this is the feedback that we are getting, and this is again a continuous loop. The third is the visibility, which is most relevant elements are most visible. So, we also saw earlier that how the hierarchy and certain principles, Gestalt principles, can be used to ensure that what is more important is highlighted, and with the help of color or many other such elements. So, now most relevant elements are visible so that distractions can be avoided, because we want the user to take action on the important thing first. And also, the design should not overwhelm or confuse the user. And lastly, tolerance, that the design should be flexible and tolerant. So, by reducing the cost of redoing and allowing undoing, by preventing errors and tolerating any input and sequence as a reasonable one. So, the design should offer that level of tolerance to the user, so that the user is not frustrated or user is not disheartened by the action that cannot be undone or that cannot be redone. So, and in this diagram here, we can see that how the user is, as the observer, is forming the goal, and the perceiving the state of the world, then interpreting the state of the world, evaluating the outcome. These are all happening here when the user is forming the goal, and then forming the interaction, specifying the action, and executing the action are the next stages. And then again, this comes back. So, again, this cycle continues. So, we will stop here today, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you.